Now to the latest on the war in Ukraine. Russian troops on the defense signaling a shift in strategy. U.S. intelligence officials say Russian forces are losing ground outside Kyiv. President Biden, meantime, in Poland tonight, getting a first-hand look at the impact the war is having on the Ukrainian people. The president touring an area where millions of refugees are seeking shelter. That, by the way, is the same area I traveled to this last week, along with a congressional team from Massachusetts. I'll have a report on that in just a few minutes, but first let's get to the night team's Kiki Wenzel with more on President Biden's trip. Kiki?
Well, Adam, the president getting a close-up look at the growing refugee crisis in Poland. This all happening as U.S. officials say Russia's attempt to try to seize Ukraine's capital is stalling. A potentially positive sign for Ukraine. A senior U.S. defense official says Russia's military advance on the country's capital of Kyiv appears to have halted, and they're turning their focus to fighting elsewhere in the country. This happening as the British ministry says Ukrainian forces have retaken towns on the outskirts of Kyiv.
We never ever go to the knee. Better we died if give up.
President Biden in Poland near the Ukrainian border to get his closest look yet at how the Russian invasion has affected all of Europe. The president later joined members of the 82nd Airborne in their mess hall, sitting down for a slice of pizza and some selfies. He told the troops they're standing up for more than just Ukraine or NATO.
You're in the midst of a fight between democracies and oligarchs.
Ukraine's president says he needs another 1,000 anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles a day to fight the Russians.
Every sign of support counts, beginning from, a hug, a word, and most importantly, of course, just the sign of unity on the side of the West, NATO, the readiness to help.
But the human devastation continues to take its toll. Officials in Mariupol confirming close to 300 people died in a Russian attack on a theater that was being used as a bomb shelter, making it the deadliest known attack on civilians. That's the theater that had the word children written on the exterior of the building in Russian.
I don't think that nobody abroad can understand truly what just happened in my hometown. Can't even imagine living in the basement is not the worst thing happening in the Mariupol. Like this town turned into a ghost.
President Biden will meet with Ukrainian refugees in Poland tomorrow. He will also meet with Poland's president and other members of the Polish government before heading back to Washington, D.C. Live in the newsroom, Kiki Wenzel, 7 News Night Team.
Today, Representatives Stephen Lynch and Lori Trahan talked about what they experienced overseas. We were there with them earlier this week. 7 News was the only local station in Poland when the congressional delegation saw the refugee crisis with their own eyes.
How are you?
Adam
Good
Williams,
to see you.
it's good to see you again.
Massachusetts Representatives Stephen Lynch and Lori Trahan traveling to Poland to see the refugee crisis firsthand.
Usually when I visit a country where we have refugee flow, we visit camps. We don't see any camps here, not like in Syria or Iraq or Afghanistan. Here, every single refugee is being housed in a private home. Never seen it before.
We're so proud of what the Polish people are doing, and it's an example for all of us to follow in terms of how we deal with refugees.
We met up with them outside the train station in Przemyśl as they met with American service members making meals.
Yeah, it looks like several generations.
And talked with refugees who left their homes and their families to escape Russian bombs.
Will Massachusetts welcome refugees from Ukraine, and if so, how will that be done?
You know, I think it's a great question, and I do expect Massachusetts to lead in this regard. We've got a long history of welcoming asylum seekers and refugees, not just to our country, but to our state.
Strong doesn't mean weak. Strong is brave.
Their trip coming just days after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made a passionate address to Congress, asking for more help. Between Congress and the White House, the U.S. has already committed more than $15 billion to Ukraine. Now, Lynch and Trahan say they've gained a new understanding of the human toll of Putin's actions and what the U.S. can do to try to stop so much suffering.
We're going to be standing with Ukraine until the end, until they win.
Their families are dying. Their men are at war. And so, you know, as much as we see it on TV, to really see the emotion here and the desperation in some cases, it is heart-wrenching. And so it lights a fire under us in terms of getting aid here and helping as much as possible.
Congressman Lynch met with a UN coordinator who says most Ukrainians do want to stay in one of these neighboring countries so they can be close to home. But of the refugees who want to leave Europe, their top destinations, their top two, include the U.S. and Canada. Congressman Lynch says almost all of them have family they can stay with. Tomorrow night, I'll be showing you the unexpected places in Poland where they're housing Ukrainians. How one city with a population of just 60,000 has gotten creative to handle the influx of more than 400,000 refugees so far. That's tomorrow night here on the news station.